What if the most pivotal supernatural event in human history was just confirmed by modern astrophysics? For centuries, skeptics, atheists, and historians have debated the exact details surrounding the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The New Testament makes a series of staggering, almost impossible cosmic claims: that the sky turned pitch black at noon, that the earth shook so violently that rocks split open, and that the moon was transformed into a deep, terrifying shade of blood. To the modern secular mind, these accounts have long been dismissed as theological poetry, symbolic myths written to elevate a religious figure. But what happens when the world's most advanced space agency inadvertently uncovers the data that proves it actually happened? Yes, you heard that correctly. Deep within the public astronomical databases maintained by NASA, systems designed to map the movements of the stars, planets, and moons across millennia, lies an undeniable cosmic fingerprint. A calculations file that aligns perfectly with ancient Roman court records, Jewish liturgical calendars, and eyewitness testimonies from 2,000 years ago. When modern scientists ran the simulation for the planetary alignments over Judea in the early 1st century, the computers returned a date that sent chills down the spines of researchers. April 3rd, 33 AD. On that exact afternoon, a sequence of terrifying cosmic anomalies occurred in the skies directly above Jerusalem. This wasn't a random coincidence. It was a perfect cosmic mirror to the biblical narrative. In this deep dive documentary, we are going to look past the theological debates. We are going to look strictly at the hard, cold evidence. We will examine the exact lunar eclipse charts from NASA, the lost reports of Roman governors who were terrified by what they saw, and the secret astronomical codes embedded within the ancient Jewish Passover rules. By the time this video ends, the intersection of absolute science and absolute faith will change the way you look at history forever. Do not blink, because the heavens themselves left a record that could no longer be hidden. To understand the weight of what NASA discovered, we must first reconstruct the timeline of that fateful Friday in Jerusalem. According to the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus of Nazareth was led to the hill of Golgotha at approximately 9 o'clock in the morning. This was the morning of the preparation for the Passover, one of the high holy days in the Jewish calendar. The city was overflowing with hundreds of thousands of pilgrims from across the Roman Empire. The atmosphere was thick with tension, political unrest, and religious fervor. The sun was shining brightly over Judea. It was a standard spring morning. But as the clock struck noon, the 6th hour in ancient timekeeping, something unprecedented happened. The Bible states that darkness covered the entire land from noon until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This wasn't a standard cloud cover. This wasn't a passing storm. The ancient texts describe it as a heavy, oppressive, unnatural darkness that caused the birds to stop singing and the temperatures to plummet. For 3 straight hours, while the sun was at its absolute peak in the sky, the light failed. Skeptics have long argued that this was simply a creative exaggeration added to the texts decades later to create a dramatic effect. After all, how could the sun just stop shining in the middle of the day without a scientific explanation? If this truly happened, it would leave a mark not just in Scripture, but in the physical mechanics of our solar system. When modern historians and astronomers decided to cross-reference this biblical timeline with astronomical software, they had to establish a baseline. We know from historical records that Jesus was crucified under the governorship of Pontius Pilate and during the high priesthood of Caiaphas. This narrows the window down to between 26 AD and 36 AD. Furthermore, the Gospels state that Jesus died on a Friday, just as the Sabbath was approaching, and it happened precisely during the Jewish Passover. The Jewish calendar is not solar like our modern Gregorian calendar. It is strictly lunar. The Passover is always celebrated on the 14th day of the Jewish month of Nisan, which by definition is the night of a full moon. When you input these absolute criteria into NASA's historical eclipse databases, a system that tracks every single lunar and solar alignment for the last 5,000 years, the computer filters out every single year except for one. The data points definitively to Friday, April 3rd, 33 AD. But what the data revealed about that specific day goes far beyond a simple date verification. It reveals a cosmic anomaly that science can map with absolute precision. Now, let's address the most common skeptical counterargument. Could the 3 hours of darkness at noon simply have been a standard solar eclipse? To the untrained eye reading ancient history, this seems like the most logical scientific explanation. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes directly between the Earth and the Sun, blocking out the sunlight. But when we apply the unyielding laws of astrophysics, laws that NASA uses to guide spacecraft across the universe, the solar eclipse theory completely falls apart. First, as we established, Jesus was crucified during the Passover. The Passover can only occur during a full moon. By the absolute laws of orbital mechanics, a solar eclipse is physically impossible during a full moon. A solar eclipse can only happen during a new moon, when the moon is positioned between the Earth and the Sun. During a full moon, the moon is on the exact opposite side of the Earth, away from the Sun. Therefore, from a purely scientific standpoint, the moon could not have blocked the Sun on April 3rd, 33 AD. Second, even if we were to ignore the moon's phases, the laws of physics dictate that a total solar eclipse can never last for 3 hours. The maximum duration that a total solar eclipse can darken any single spot on Earth is roughly 7.5 minutes. The shadow cast by the moon is small and moves across the planet's surface at thousands of miles per hour as the Earth rotates. Yet, the historical record states that the darkness over Judea lasted for 3 solid hours, from noon until 3 p.m. So, if a solar eclipse is scientifically ruled out, what caused the noonday darkness? This is where the mystery deepens. Some scientists suggest an atmospheric phenomenon, such as a massive, unprecedented desert dust storm known as a khamsin, which can carry millions of tons of fine sand into the upper atmosphere, blotting out the sun and turning the sky an eerie dark hue. Others believe it was a localized supernatural suspension of natural law. But while science struggles to find the exact mechanism for the midday darkness, NASA's data found something else entirely. While the sun could not be blocked by the moon during a full moon, that exact planetary positioning is the perfect recipe for a different cosmic event, a lunar eclipse. And it is precisely here, in the alignment of the Earth's shadow, that NASA's database confirms the second half of the biblical prophecy.
In the early 1990s, an astrophysicist named Colin Humphreys from the University of Oxford, along with an astronomer named Graham Waddington, decided to use advanced celestial calculations, the same math verified by NASA's retrospective eclipse data, to reconstruct the night sky of Jerusalem on April 3, 33 AD. What they discovered was nothing short of miraculous. NASA's Global Eclipse database confirms that on the evening of April 3, 33 AD, a partial lunar eclipse occurred that was directly visible from the city of Jerusalem. To understand what this looked like to the people standing in the city, we have to understand the science of a blood moon. A lunar eclipse happens when the Earth passes directly between the Sun and the Moon, blocking the direct sunlight from hitting the lunar surface. However, the Sun's light bends around the edges of the Earth's atmosphere. The blue and green light wavelengths are filtered out, but the longer red wavelengths pass through. This red light is projected onto the Moon, giving it an eerie, glowing, copper-red appearance. According to the computer models verified by NASA data, this specific eclipse was unique. As the full moon rose over the horizon of Jerusalem at around 6:20 p.m. that evening, it didn't appear as a bright, silver orb. Instead, it rose already in a state of partial eclipse. To the thousands of families finishing their Passover meals, the moon appeared as if it had been dipped in blood. Approximately 20% of the moon's surface was completely swallowed by the dark core of the Earth's shadow, while the rest glowed with a deep, unsettling crimson light. This scientific reality perfectly matches the dramatic speech given just a few weeks later by the Apostle Peter on the day of Pentecost. Recorded in the book of Acts, Peter stands before the crowds of Jerusalem and quotes the ancient prophet Joel, shouting, "The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the co." For the ultimate confirmation, we must step outside of both NASA and the Bible. If the sun went dark for 3 hours and the moon turned to blood over one of the most important administrative regions of the Roman Empire, then secular historians who didn't care about Christianity must have recorded it. Do these records exist? The answer is an definitive yes. Consider the writings of Thallus, a non-Christian historian writing in the year 52 AD, barely 20 years after the Crucifixion. His original volumes are lost to time, but he was extensively quoted by later historians like Julius Africanus. Africanus writes that Thallus attempted to explain away the 3 hours of midday darkness that occurred during the reign of Tiberius Caesar, claiming it was merely a solar eclipse. Africanus argues against Thallus, pointing out the exact same scientific fact we discussed earlier, that a solar eclipse cannot happen during a full moon. What this proves is that a highly cynical, non-Christian historian acknowledged that the darkness was a historical reality that demanded a rational explanation. Even more startling are the ancient chronologies of Phlegon of Tralles, a Greek historian born shortly after the event. Phlegon wrote a massive historical compendium where he recorded, in the 4th year of the 202nd Olympiad, which maps precisely to 32 or 33 AD, there was the greatest eclipse of the sun. It became night at the 6th hour of the day, so that stars even appeared in the heavens. And there was a great earthquake in Bithynia, and many things were overturned in Nicaea. Think about the precision of this secular account. It names the exact year, the exact hour of the day, noon, mentions that the darkness was so intense that stars became visible, and links it directly to a massive earthquake, mirroring Matthew's Gospel, which states the earth shook and rocks split. There are even ancient records known as the Report of Pilate, letters A.
Allegedly sent from the governor of Judea to Emperor Tiberius in Rome, describing the strange cosmic darkness that terrified the local population. When you stack these ancient Greek and Roman testimonies alongside the calculated lunar charts from NASA, the argument that the crucifixion narrative is just a fictional fairy tale completely disintegrates. The earth did shake. The sun did fail. The moon did turn to blood. What does all of this mean for us today? It means that history is not a collection of random accidents. The universe operates on a divine clock, meticulously engineered by a creator who signs his work across the cosmos. The alignment of April 3, 33 AD was a cosmic statement. It was a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality, that at the exact moment Jesus Christ shed his blood on the cross to break the chains of humanity, the very sky above reflected that sacrifice. The sun hid its light in morning, and the moon was stained crimson as a permanent witness to the covenant. This ancient covenant wasn't just for the people standing in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, it is an active shield of divine immunity, protection, and grace over your life, your home, and your family today. If you believe that the same God who commands the trajectories of the stars is watching over your household right now, I want you to drop everything and type "protect" in the comments below to claim this divine shield. Share this video with someone who needs to see that science and faith are not enemies, they are telling the exact same story. The proof is undeniable, the cosmic clock is ticking, and the data is locked forever in the archives of space and time. It's a truth so profound that it forces us to re-examine the origin of everything, reminding us why.